For me, recovery, my why when I got into recovery wasn't for me, it was for my children. The reason Dad got sober and broke this generational cycle of addiction that he got from his family was for his children. What's very difficult is less than 2% of people in the United States of America, this is a true statistic, can afford to get help. Unfortunately, the generational curse of addiction carries forward because we all become maladaptive in our thinking and our behaviors in our home, in what we allow from ourselves and from others. You know, as a codependent, your dad would come home drunk and I would trip over the stairs and say I just had one, when quite clearly he hadn't just had one. And you know, I'd gotten a call from daycare, he tried to pick you up and he was hammered. And so there's this underlying shame and anger and knowing that I can't control it, I didn't cause it, I can't cure it, but I am dealing daily with the byproduct of active addiction. So how do I keep my sanity, and how do I parent children who are going to be healthy and understand what reality is if I don't get my shit tight? So how did I do that? I went to the family program 5 times. I bought every pamphlet, I did every workbook, and I held myself accountable for my thoughts, words, and deeds. And I started living my life as simply as I could, and that is, are my behaviors, my thoughts, my words, and deeds part of the problem by feeding addiction, or am I feeding recovery and the promises of happy, joyous, and free for my children? Because kids think it's all their fault. Kids think that, you know, if I got better grades, you know, if I hurry up and clean the kitchen before Dad gets home, if I make him his favorite chocolate chip cookies. These are children who are starting to feel stressors, who are developing anxiety, who are beginning to have maladaptive adjustments to their behaviors to try and prevent what the worst thing is to them is, you know, losing a parent or contributing negatively to the family environment. And these little faces really perceive that what they've done on some level has impacted the drug use and the fighting in the home. So I became non-negotiable that this new way of thinking, because I'm a product of an alcoholic mother who was, I was parenticized at an early age, getting my brother up grade 4, cooking his breakfast, getting him ready to go because Dad would be on the road and Mom couldn't get up in the morning. I didn't want that for my kids. So I was like, you know, G.I. Jane going at the program, trying to master it. And it's a process, and it's a journey, and it's taking a new language and practicing it. I can take French classes. I can't go to Paris and converse or read. It takes a good year, in my opinion, to become practice in the new thought process, broom the maladaptive behaviors from my home, and know that the only person that I can control is me, and that I did the best I could so my kids didn't become a generational statistic. 1 out of 3 will become an alcoholic. The second one will marry an alcoholic. And the third one usually is the wild child. I wanted way better for my kids than that. The one thing I'll go to my grave with is I know I did the absolute best I could, becoming really practiced in the program, where it became like breathing for me. You know, it's decision making isn't tough. No, that feeds addiction. No, that feeds recovery. So that's the right road to go down. And I know my kids today are as cognitive behaviorally well because of what we contributed, your dad and I did, to the work we did to be healthy individuals with the foundation of rigorous honesty, non-judgment, non-grandiosity, no ego, no bulldozing, no I want it when I want it right now is allowed in the home. And we replaced it with, be kind, don't trip on mouse turds, don't make things bigger than they need to be, change your location rather than getting mad at the people around you. All those 1,000 little tools that they call little miracles that you collect like little daisies to be the very best for yourself and for your kids. And today I know I live happy, joyous, and free in a 43-year-old marriage. Our marriage is 43 years old. And I wouldn't trade one bad day for all the good days. I wouldn't trade getting the call that he was pronounced dead on arrival. All the 17 operations. He is a magnificent man who does good every day, who loves me unconditionally. And I don't know how many people get that gift in their lifetime, but I know I am that for him and he is that for me. And I know you wouldn't be where you are today with the opportunity to be the father that you're going to be. And that's the gift that you have the opportunity to give others.
For somebody that doesn't know what the family program is, as far as what is entailed in a family program, how do you describe that to somebody who might be fearful to be able to engage or get started, but is ready for change?
If you're truly ready for change, it's typically because the pain and suffering has been enough and you feel suffocated. You're probably experiencing some level of depression. You're experiencing loss of dreams, loss of hope. You're lost. I was suicidal. I knew exactly how I was going to off myself. And the only reason I probably didn't was because I had children. And so the term surrender is really confusing to people new to the program, because surrender to people means giving up. Surrender to me meant that I didn't have all the answers. I tried my butt off and it wasn't working. So I took a leap of faith that when I was told that the family program, I would find my way back home to me. My ethics, my morals would be intact. I wouldn't need to scream MF'er, break dishes, carry on because I was so angry. I learned the difference between responding and reacting. And I really, really became almost militantly protective of the happiness that we grew to have in the home. And I say to people, anybody looking at the family program, it is my Harvard education that I wouldn't trade for anything, because it set me free. And, well, why don't you address the mother you feel that I became?
Why don't we transition to what does detaching with love mean to you, when some others might feel like it's more like abandoning. What does detaching with love mean, and how do you do it?
Detaching with love isn't easy initially. A lot of people detach by saying, you're out of my life, don't ever call me again, I'm going to block you on Facebook. It's very juvenile. Detaching with love is actually very deep love. It's unconditional love. It means I love you enough to stay out of your way and allow you your journey and consequences. But your behaviors, your addict self, aren't welcome around me.
And you provide them with a choice to choose.
Mm-hmm. Themselves, their health, their happiness.
And without that, they might not ever get the opportunity to be able to choose how to be sober, how to get started, to work the steps.
I remember when your brother called me and said, I'm going to off myself. And he'd been on a big cocaine binge. He'd been to rehab. And he told me he was going to off himself. And he was calling to say goodbye. And it was back when, cell phones were 2 feet big, and your dad was golfing, Ricky's sponsor was golfing, your dad's sponsor was golfing. I couldn't find anybody to go over there. So I left work, I got in my van, I stopped at O'Connor's Deli and got a thing of chicken noodle soup because he was sobbing on the phone and Kleenex. And I walked in, I prayed my whole way over there. God, tell me what I'm supposed to do with this. And it was like he had his hand on my back. I walked in that door, I looked Ricky clear in the eye, and I said, you called the wrong person today. And what you just did to me was very cruel. And I don't want you to ever do it again. I'm not giving you permission to ever treat me like that again. You know who you need to call. It's your choice what you're going to do or make of your life. Here's chicken noodle soup. It sounds like you have a cold Kleenex for your tears. I suggest you make a good decision today. And I turned and I walked out the door and sobbed my whole way home. And he told me that's the day he took responsibility for his living. That's the thing. If the addict always knows you're going to have their back, provide for them when they can't provide for themselves, make excuses for them, keep their secrets, live in shame, why are they going to change? And some never will, even with treatment, but some do.
There's no guarantees.
There's no guarantees. But what the family program will do is give you your sanity back, your health and happiness back, if you choose it. And for me, I knew that I was going to be able to be the parent I wanted to be when I was done with the program. No more temper tantrums, no more screaming, get your manager, no more breaking dishes, because the program allowed me to take responsibility for the person I wanted to become. And I remember I took this word called grace and I wrote it on everything. Grace, 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 grace. And what grace meant to me was God, hope, family. Bev, do your work every day. Be kind. Don't react. Don't yell. Don't scream. Don't swear. Don't kick doors through walls because you're losing your mind. Because the funny part of surrendering is it really gives you your life back, your strength, your courage, your hope.
How did you transition once you got educated and had some eye-openers about the program to teach me? And what did it look like to instill what healthy looked like and trying to retool us with having a healthy home and what that looked like? How did you teach me and Jill and Rick when we were young?
By example, by shining the light, by saying, that's not acceptable. Please don't behave like that in my home, or please don't speak like that in my presence.
So you're
it's not goodly and godly. You lay down healthy boundaries and you say, character's going to mean something. The 10 Commandments are going to mean something in our home. And when you start really living those, when I started really living those, it's a passive way to teach because it isn't invisible to you what I'm doing or how I'm behaving or how I'm treating someone. Not disrespecting somebody in active addiction. Well, what do you mean? They're coming in drunk, they're stealing my money, they've crashed the car 4 times. Yep, they've done all those things. And you have a choice. You either allow them to come home into the house, or you say, no more, not around me. It's time for you to get help or it's time for you to go. And the toughest part of that is you've got to get out of your own fear and that selfishness. And people say fear's not selfish, it's a reaction. Well, it's a choice to stay in that spot once you recognize you're there.
So you're not a victim?
Not a victim, I'm not a martyr.
You have a choice?
I have a choice. And
every day that you don't act, that is acting. And every day that you hide, it is, it's showing your kids what they need to do to be able to survive.
And it's as simple as taking responsibility for where you want to have a good conversation. And if you do it in the middle of the family hub and you're ADD, it's very difficult. And even if you're not ADD, it's very difficult. It's, saying, I better relocate myself because I know I'm not going to perform well in this environment. It's taking responsibility for you. Programs just like the Harvard education for living life and to leverage all those lessons, those 1,000 little miracles, to really be free to choose happiness, to choose what you're going to marinate in. Right now in the world with the pandemic, with the such oppositional views between Democrats and Republicans, between what you're seeing on the evening news, my gracious, I think it's one of the most challenging times I've observed at 62. And your dad does a great thing. He says, what I'm going to do is worry about my own little world, that I stay healthy and my family stays healthy, and that my family stays tight. And I will do all that I can within my sphere of influence, but I'm not going to marinate in the evening news. I'm not going to, listen to all the awful statistics every night. I'm going to make good decisions, live the best I can, and regardless of circumstance, be happy anyway. And
so you're not passionate about the country?
I'm very passionate about the country. There's a difference between being passionate about your viewpoints, though, and then having your viewpoints take over your life so that you're really not living it anymore. You're marinating in everything you can't control.
Yeah.
I think the passions are so oppositional today that it's a very, very sad and challenging time, and I see it ripping families apart. And that's a choice. Like, it's before I came, I couldn't vote. You voted. We talked about, if I could have voted, I would have voted opposite of you. And when I said I don't want to have politics in our relationship on my visit.
And we've had an awesome visit.
And we've had a fantastic visit.
Do you know how many more years sober that you have in Dad?
No.
Well, Dad has 25 years of sobriety, and you got educated in the family program. So if you think back, you probably have somewhere around about 27 years of working the program. Dad has 25 years of sobriety, you have 27. That makes 52. Rick has 17. That's 59. Carrie 69, and then me coming up on 11 will be 80 years of working the program in our family. Did you know that?
Perfectly imperfect.
Perfectly imperfect.
But it's really cool to think that when we were raising you, you always got to go to your grandparents' house, and Ricky did. And now we have grandchildren. And so as you retool what your purpose is as you're aging, it gets very different. Your children move on, they have a spouse. They say, you get your boys until they become adults, and then they become their wives' significant other. I think what's really neat with you is we've maintained a relationship with you and are growing a relationship with your bride. Do you think without the program that would happen?
No.
The gift of the program keeps going, and I know that as Lila's growing up and she's facing this crazy new world, she's always going to be able to come to Grandpa's house, and we're going to teach her gardening, cooking, sailing, tennis, whatever she wants to do, and it's always going to be a healthy place and a safe place that I can ingratiate her with, and she won't even know that that's what it's all about. But someday she will.
Just thinking about that, most people would think that the norm is around every holiday there's drinking, and we play this drinking game for Don's birthday or whoever, and that becomes the norm. So that's what I'm grateful for with the program is you get creative and you actually grow between the years and how to have fun and how to show young ones how to have fun without alcohol.
I know that my gold bars, when we look at the money we spent on hockey for you guys and treatment, going through the economic tsunami that happened a decade ago and not having time to recover yet, and then here we are amidst a pandemic, and when the governor of Michigan defunded the police, she slapped on a bill that got through where she took away half of your dad's income overnight. And what I will say is it doesn't matter what's going on in the world around us. Our program stays strong, and it leverages our ability and our thought processes to prevail and to be happy anyway. And it's the gold bars that I have that make my life rich and full.
So otherwise you get strapped into constantly, thinking and fighting in your head and really not being in the moment. And before you know it, your time's up. All you have are the moments.
I'd rather have memories than altercations, or to be at odds.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's tough in this world today. I'm not going to say that it isn't. I like the saying that everybody's going through the same thing, but the experiences are very, very different, and the systemic impacts are very, very different to people right now. But I know your dad every day helps people in a way that I'm not capable. He is grace personified. He is doing God's work. He is an amazing Christian soldier. And I know you're all really lucky to have him, and I'm really lucky to have him in our life. He's wickedly wonderful. And when I say wickedly, it's with humor, because his humor is fabulous.